I never thought I'd be the type of man to write a letter like this, much less to my wife. Emily and I had been married for 10 years. We had a home together, a life we built brick by brick with love, or so I thought. But sometimes, the people closest to you wield the sharpest knives. It all began with a forgotten scarf. She had claimed she was at her sister's place that evening, helping plan a family event. But when I picked up the scarf she'd left behind, it smelled of cologne, not mine. Something inside me twisted, a quiet voice whispering that not everything was as it seemed. I tried to dismiss it. I really did. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. But as the days passed, her behavior began to shift. Late night phone calls, a sudden interest in working overtime, a carefully guarded phone that she never used to care about before. It was subtle, but the changes were there. For weeks I wrestled with my doubts. I didn't want to believe it. I loved Emily. She was my everything. But doubt, once planted, grows like a weed, choking the trust that once flourished. Finally, I decided I needed to know the truth, no matter how much it might hurt. Hiring a private investigator felt like betrayal. But what if I was wrong? What if she was innocent and my suspicions were unfounded? The guilt of doubting her almost made me cancel the entire thing. Almost. It took 3 days. 3 agonizing days. For the investigator to return with photos, timestamps, and undeniable proof. Emily was having an affair with her coworker, Daniel. The images were a gut punch. Intimate dinners, stolen kisses, and finally, them walking into his apartment together. I stared at the photos for hours that night. My stomach churned with anger, sadness, and a profound sense of betrayal. But amidst the chaos of emotions, a cold clarity emerged. If she wanted out of our marriage, she could have told me. If she no longer loved me, she could have been honest. Instead, she chose lies and deceit. And for that, she deserved to face the consequences. But I didn't want to explode or lash out. That would only give her more ammunition to paint herself as the victim. Instead, I decided to play the long game. I wanted her to feel every ounce of betrayal she had inflicted upon me. The first step was acting like everything was normal. I didn't confront her. Instead, I became even more attentive, more affectionate. I cooked her favorite meals, planned date nights, and even bought her flowers. She beamed, probably thinking she had me completely fooled. Meanwhile, I worked in the background, setting my plan in motion. Emily had always been meticulous about keeping up appearances. She valued her reputation more than anything. She was the perfect wife in public, poised, charming, and always in control. I knew that to truly get under her skin, I had to strike where it hurt the most. Over the next few weeks, I gathered everything I needed: the photos, call logs, and text messages from her phone, thanks to the spy app I'd quietly installed. The messages made me sick. They were vulgar, explicit, and full of plans for a future together. "I can't wait until I'm done with this sham of a marriage," she wrote in one. "Then we can be together, and I won't have to sneak around anymore." Sham of a marriage. Those words echoed in my mind like a thunderclap. The love we'd shared, the life we'd built, was nothing but a joke to her. That's when I decided her betrayal deserved more than just exposure. It deserved a reckoning. I waited until our anniversary. She'd forgotten, of course. Too busy sneaking off for a work trip. I smiled as I kissed her goodbye that morning, knowing she'd find the package waiting for her when she returned. Inside was a letter. It started with all the usual anniversary sentiments. "Happy anniversary, my love. 10 years ago, we stood before our friends and family and vowed to be faithful, honest, and true. I never imagined I'd have to remind you of those vows." I detailed the moments that had raised my suspicions: the scarf, the late night calls, the sudden overtime shifts. Then I laid out the evidence: the photos, the messages, the call logs. I spared no detail. But the final sentence was the real blow. It read, "By the time you read this, everything you hold dear will be gone." I've emptied our joint accounts and transferred the house into my name. The evidence of your affairs already with my lawyer, who will ensure you get nothing from the divorce. Emily came home that night to an empty house. The locks had been changed. The letter, along with a neatly stacked pile of her belongings, sat waiting for her on the porch. I watched from my car as she picked up the letter, her confident smile fading with each word she read. When she reached the end, she crumpled to the ground, wailing in anguish. It should have felt like victory. It should have felt satisfying to see her suffer as I had. But as I sat there watching the woman I once loved break down, all I felt was a hollow emptiness. She'd made her choices. Now she'd have to live with them. I drove away that night without looking back. My life had been shattered, but I was determined to rebuild. And as for Emily, she'd learned the hard way that betrayal comes with a price she'd be paying for a long, long time.